Recently heard word about a 100-page special that's going to be followed by monthly installments of Berserk, so I got thinking. It might be fun to do a little bit of speculation on things that we might see down the road. Now, I've only read up to volume 37, no small feat, but there's some stuff that has been localized that I've only seen, little screenshots here and there that might contradict some of my ideas here, so take it with a grain of salt. Now, I think Casca's restoration of her mind, of her sanity, that's going to happen, but the issue at hand is what causes the restoration, or whether she'll embrace it, because she's it's a lot to take in that she's endured. But for the right incentive, she might decide that the pain, the anguish is something she'd rather deal with than lose something more important to her. Like, let's say, for example, the Moonlight Boy. If he is indeed Casca's son, for the love of her child, she might want to deal with all the anguish, the hurt, the suffering. It's hell, maybe even because deep down she loves Guts, she'll want to endure. Especially if Miura wants to make it clear that Guts and Casca are the one true pair of the series. Which actually kind of segues into something I've been wondering about with the Behelits that the party's been carrying around with them. What if the true owner is in fact Farnese? There's this there's been this little subtext, she's crushing on Guts pretty hard. She's got some jealousy towards Casca. She sees them all hunky-dory. She's in a bit of a crisis. She might be tempted to become an apostle. I mean, she's normaled out, she's shown some human kindness, but she does have a dark side. And she might do some evil shit if she is so inclined. Further, I think Serpico, for her sake, would willingly accept the brand of sacrifice. Whether or not he dies there, that's a whole other issue, but I think, for her, Serpico would accept for himself the damnation as being one who carries the brand of sacrifice. Because even if you set aside their half-siblings, potentially incestuous stuff, they've always had a bit of a screwed-up relationship. Kind of like that bond of people who've done horrible things together. Torturing old ladies who lost their minds and whatnot. Now, back on the Moonlight Boy. I had a couple of different ideas that... Now, I'm pretty sure the Moonlight Boy is the demon infant reborn. Perhaps having some of Griffith's essence, changing the nature of the child, it caused the child to be reborn, incarnated into something more whole, because the process in the Tower of Conviction was also meant to give Griffith a physical form to manifest in. And this is one of the side effects, because they have a similar nature, the demon infant and Griffith. It's also possible the Moonlight Boy inherited Griffith's conscience. The part of him that was aware, to some degree, of the what was going to happen. Just before the eclipse, Griffith finds the egg of the king once again. Guts is running towards him. Griffith is horrified. And even though it should have been impossible, was able to shout, "Stay away." That part of Griffith that's still human, that some humanity, might have passed on to the Moonlight Boy. I'm not 100% sure. Now, I focus on the Moonlight Boy because I really do think he's a game changer, or could be a game changer. Because there's the question, was his birth part of the plan? You know, he could throw him. We got this issue of causality. Powers beyond understanding, influencing events. A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D. A piece that wasn't meant to be on the board could muck things up for the God Hand and the power behind them. It's also entirely possible that the Moonlight Boy was intended by the powers behind the God Hand. Something greater than the God Hand, potentially. We don't know for sure. It's just one possibility I want to throw out there. Now, I've also wondered about the legend of Peikoff. That's the story of a boy who was born different. He had pointy ears, red eyes, inhuman features. You know, he's a bit of a pariah in his village. He leaves thinking he might actually be an elf. He goes looking for the elves in the forest. The elves tell him, "No, you're a human, kid." Long ago, some humans brought a child before them, begging to save its life. You know, the elves told him, if we do this, if we use our magic to save the boy, he's going to be different. He's going to be a little bit of a weirdo. The parents were okay with it, as long as it saved the baby. And let's not forget, Puck himself, meeting the Skull Knight, thinks he feels like an elf. That, you know, the legend of Peikoff might have been an early account of the Skull Knight's life. It might have even been a story that Skull Knight himself told to well, if not to explain his background directly, he might have even used a fake name for it. Which got me thinking. Now, when Skull Knight first meets Guts, he mentions the circumstances of Guts' birth. I mean, a baby found in amongst death and entrails and whatnot. Now, is it possible? Now, the Skull Knight has some insights into causality, into events to come, and presumably events of the past. So it's possible that that insight that lets him know where to be and when to be, let him know about Guts, but it's also, you know, maybe Skull Knight was there when Guts was an infant, near death. And thus, Skull Knight used a little bit of his own, of the power that sustained his own life to save the baby, save Guts. And he was a less, not on par with the magic that saved Peikoff, but still some pretty strong stuff that might have had influence, like, you know, slightly pointy ears, and this superpower where Guts does not die when he really ought to several times over from various things. Though I gotta wonder if Skull Knight himself really is an ally, because he's kept mum about stuff that would have been really helpful. Like having that friend who could mask the effects of the brand, knowledge of the King of the Elves, who could, in theory, restore Casca to sanity. Now, there is some justification in it. You could say Guts needed to go out there, vent his fury against the Apostles, deal with the futility of it all, fighting them head on. And it's also possible that if Skull Knight told Guts about the King of the Elves and his power to restore people, that Guts would have gone off with Casca to find Elfheim. He would have been ill-prepared. Might have even resented Casca for distracting him from his vengeance, his war declaration. And so Guts had to go out there. He had to suffer. He had to be hardened by his experiences with the Apostles. But it's, we gotta think about it. The Skull Knight is a noble sort of fellow, and he's helped humans in dire need. But he might keep mum about important things. He might endanger humans if it is necessary to give himself an opening to strike the God Hand. Perhaps the use of the Berserker armor is... he's lost a lot of that, the little things that make a person human. It's something Guts gonna have to look out for as he uses the armor himself, that he doesn't become detached from his own humanity, because whatever supernatural stuff we can hypothesize about Guts, it's his humanity that makes things interesting, and why we want to see where he goes in this journey as a person, as a warrior, and one bound by causality and whatnot. Well, thank you all for taking the time to listen. It's going to be interesting to see where the comic goes. Have a nice day. Bye.